A poor black single mother counts her last coins on the flight, until a CEO sitting nearby changes her life. Tanisha Williams stares at the scattered coins in her palm, tears threatening to spill onto her worn jeans. $7.35. That's all she has left to her name after purchasing this one-way ticket to Indianapolis. The overhead bin rattles as the plane hits another pocket of turbulence, but Tanisha barely notices. Her stomach growls painfully, reminding her that she hasn't eaten since yesterday morning. The flight attendant passes by, offering drinks and snacks for purchase. $5 for a sandwich. Tanisha closes her fist around the coins and turns toward the window, hoping no one notices her shame. In seat 14B, just across the aisle, James Harrington adjusts his Italian silk tie and glances over at the young woman counting coins. The CEO of Harrington Enterprises has built his fortune recognizing opportunities others miss. Something about this woman's quiet dignity catches his attention. He observes as she discreetly wipes away a tear while clutching a worn photograph of two small children. The contrast between his first-class upgrade and her obvious struggle creates an uncomfortable feeling he hasn't experienced in years. Sometimes the most important investments aren't listed on any stock exchange, James mutters to himself, reaching a decision that will alter both their lives forever. He signals the flight attendant. But to understand how Tanisha Williams ended up on this flight with nothing but loose change and desperate hope, we need to go back 3 months earlier, when life still held some semblance of normalcy for the 32-year-old single mother of two. The alarm blares at 4:30 a.m., and Tanisha's hand instinctively reaches out to silence it before it wakes the children. The one-bedroom apartment in South Side Chicago is still dark as she carefully extracts herself from the bed she shares with her daughters, 6-year-old Amara and 4-year-old Zora. The girls sleep soundly, their small bodies curled together like quotation marks. Tanisha allows herself 5 seconds to watch them breathe before reality demands her attention. The apartment is cold again. The heating has been temperamental all winter, and the landlord's promises to fix it remain just that, promises. Tanisha wraps her robe tighter and moves quietly to the kitchenette where she prepares lunches for the girls. She stretches 2 slices of bread into sandwiches, cutting Amara's into triangles and Zora's into squares, just the way they like. There's barely enough peanut butter left for tomorrow, but she'll worry about that after her shift. Tanisha works 2 jobs, morning shifts at Sunrise Diner and evening reception at a budget hotel. Between them, she takes online classes in business administration. Sleep is a luxury she can rarely afford. Her mother watches the girls while she works, a blessing Tanisha never takes for granted. One day, she whispers to herself as she packs the lunches into colorful bags, one day we'll have enough. It's a mantra that keeps her going when exhaustion threatens to pull her under. By 5:15 a.m., Tanisha is dressed in her waitress uniform, hair neatly braided. She scribbles a note for her mother who will arrive at 6:30 to get the girls ready for school. Then she's out the door, hurrying to catch the first bus of the day. The February air bites at her cheeks, and she pulls her inadequate jacket tighter. A new winter coat is somewhere on the endless list of things they need but can't afford. The city is still sleeping as Tanisha makes her way to the diner. Chicago's skyscrapers loom like sentinels against the pre-dawn sky, windows lit here and there with the lives of other early risers. Tanisha allows herself to wonder about those lives. Are they also counting coins and stretching meals? Or do they wake early by choice rather than necessity? The bus is nearly empty. Tanisha sits near the front, using the 20-minute ride to review her business management notes. Education is her way out, her plan for a better life. Each assignment completed is a small victory in the war against poverty that has defined her existence since childhood. The cold seeps through the thin fabric of her uniform pants. Tanisha shivers but keeps her focus on the textbook balanced on her knees. The pages detail concepts of organizational leadership and financial management, worlds away from her current reality, yet tantalizingly possible through education. Her professor had praised her midterm paper last week, noting her exceptional real-world understanding of resource allocation. Tanisha had smiled at that. When every penny matters, you become an expert in allocation by necessity. Her thoughts drift to her daughters. Amara, serious and observant, already showing academic promise in 1st grade. Her teacher had suggested advanced reading programs that Tanisha couldn't afford. And Zora, a whirlwind of energy and curiosity, who deserved dance classes and art supplies instead of second-hand toys and hand-me-down clothes. The weight of their potential she might not be able to nurture as she should sits heavy on her chest. The bus lurches to a stop, jolting Tanisha from her thoughts. Outside the window, the familiar sign of Sunrise Diner glows yellow against the dark morning. She gathers her things, thanks the driver, and steps out into the biting cold. The diner's windows are already lit. Hector, the cook, always arrives first to fire up the grills and start the coffee. Sunrise Diner comes to life under Tanisha's efficient hands. She starts the coffee brewing, wipes down counters, and restocks condiments before the first customers arrive. By 6:00 a.m., the morning regulars begin to trickle in: truck drivers, hospital workers ending night shifts, and business people seeking early starts to their days. "Morning, Tanisha," calls Mr. Peterson, a retired postal worker who comes in for breakfast every day. "How are those beautiful girls of yours?" Tanisha's smile is genuine as she pours his coffee. "Growing too fast. Zora lost another tooth yesterday." "Tooth fairy visit?" he asks with a wink, stirring cream into his coffee. "Of course," Tanisha says, not mentioning that the tooth fairy could only afford 50 cents, slipped carefully under Zora's pillow while the child slept. It had been enough, though. Zora's delight at finding the 2 quarters had been as enthusiastic as if she'd discovered gold. Mr. Peterson nods approvingly. "And Amara, still reading everything in sight." "Everything," Tanisha confirms with pride. "Her teacher says she's reading at a 3rd grade level now." "Smart like her mama," Mr. Peterson says. "You still taking those college classes?" "Trying to," Tanisha says, already glancing toward the door as new customers enter. 3 more semesters to go. These small exchanges of humanity sustain her through the morning rush. She moves with practiced efficiency between tables, her mind constantly calculating the day's potential tips. A good day might mean new school shoes for Amara. An excellent day could put a little more into the emergency fund that never seems to grow. The diner fills quickly with the morning crowd. Tanisha balances plates along her arm with the skill of someone who has done this for years. She remembers orders without writing them down, anticipates needs before customers voice them, and manages to maintain a warm smile despite the growing ache in her feet. By 8:30, the rush is in full swing, and she hasn't had a moment to catch her breath. Loretta, the diner's owner and manager, watches from behind the register with a critical eye. A heavy-set woman in her 50s with perpetually pursed lips, Loretta runs the diner with rigid efficiency. She's fair but unsentimental, concerned primarily with the bottom line. She's been giving Tanisha more opening shifts lately, a sign of trust that Tanisha doesn't take lightly. "Table 7 needs coffee," Loretta calls out as Tanisha passes with a tray of food. "On it," Tanisha responds, delivering the breakfast plates to table 4 before grabbing the coffee pot. She's learned to layer tasks, to maximize every movement. Time management isn't just a business school concept for her, it's survival. By mid-morning, the rush subsides. Tanisha takes a moment to drink water in the back room, checking her phone quickly for messages from her mother. Nothing urgent, just a picture of Zora dressed for school, grinning to show her missing tooth. The sight of her daughter's smile renews Tanisha's energy. This is why she works so hard. This is what matters. What Tanisha doesn't know, what she can't possibly know as she refills coffee cups and delivers plates of eggs and bacon, is that today will set in motion events that will empty that emergency fund entirely. By closing time, the life she has so carefully constructed will begin to unravel. The first sign of trouble comes at 10:47 a.m. when her phone vibrates in her apron pocket. Phones are strictly prohibited during shifts, but Tanisha's mother has instructions to call only in emergencies. She excuses herself to the restroom to check the message. "Zora's school called. She has a fever of 102. I'm taking her to the clinic. Call when you can." Anxiety immediately tightens Tanisha's chest. They don't have health insurance. The clinic charges $75 just to be seen, money that's earmarked for this month's electric bill. But Zora's health comes first, always. Her mind races as she returns to the dining room. Maybe it's just a cold. Maybe they can manage with over-the-counter medicine. Maybe the clinic will offer a payment plan. The maybes pile up, each one flimsy as tissue paper against the solid reality of her daughter's illness. "Loretta, I'm sorry, but I need to leave early. My daughter's sick," Tanisha explains to the manager when she returns. Loretta's face hardens. "Tanisha, this is the 3rd time this month. I'm running a business here, not a charity." Tanisha swallows hard. It's true Amara had strep throat 2 weeks ago, and before that, Tanisha herself had been too ill to work a shift. The winter has been brutal on all of them. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'll make up the hours this weekend," Tanisha promises, already untying her apron. Loretta crosses her arms. That's what you said last time. I've got bills to pay too, you know. Customers expect consistency. Please, Loretta, it's my 4-year-old. She has a high fever. I need to be there. The desperation in Tanisha's voice is palpable. Don't bother, Loretta says coldly. We need reliable people. Clean out your locker before you go. The words hit Tanisha like a physical blow. She wants to argue, to remind Loretta of her 3 years of dedicated service, of coming in on holidays, of staying late when others called out. But pride and urgency force her to swallow her protests. I understand, she manages, though she doesn't, not really. How can anyone understand the impossible choices poverty forces upon you daily? In the back room, Tanisha removes her name tag and collects the few personal items from her locker: a spare pair of stockings, a toothbrush, the business textbook she studies during breaks. Her hands shake slightly as she places them in her bag. The job had been steady, the tips decent, the schedule predictable enough to work around her classes and second job. Now it's gone, another piece of her carefully constructed life crumbling away. As she leaves through the back door, Mr. Peterson catches her eye from his booth. He's been coming to the diner long enough to recognize trouble. He raises his eyebrows in silent question. Tanisha gives a small shake of her head and slips out before her emotions betray her. Outside, the day has warmed slightly, but Tanisha feels chilled to the bone. The loss of the job isn't just about today's income. It's about next week's rent, next month's utilities, the precarious balance of expenses that keeps her family afloat. She checks her phone. A text from her mother says they're still waiting at the clinic. Tanisha catches the next bus, her mind calculating and recalculating their dwindling resources. 20 minutes later, Tanisha rushes into the crowded clinic waiting room where her mother sits with a listless Zora on her lap. The little girl's usually bright eyes are dull with fever, her dark curls damp against her forehead. Mommy, Zora whimpers, reaching out small arms. Tanisha gathers her daughter close, feeling the heat radiating from her small body. I'm here, baby. Mommy's here now. Eleanor Williams, Tanisha's mother, looks exhausted. At 62, she struggles with her own health issues, arthritis that makes her joints ache and diabetes that requires careful management. Yet she never hesitates to care for her granddaughters when needed. They said it might be another hour, Eleanor informs her daughter quietly. It's busy today. Tanisha nods, settling into the hard plastic chair with Zora on her lap. Thank you for bringing her, Mama. I got here as soon as I could. Eleanor studies her daughter's face. You left work early. Will there be trouble? Tanisha hesitates, not wanting to add to her mother's worries. But there are no secrets between them. There can't be when their lives are so intertwined by necessity. I lost the job, she admits softly, stroking Zora's back as the child dozes against her chest. Eleanor closes her eyes briefly. Jesus help us, she murmurs. Then, with the resilience that has carried her through her own hardships, she straightens her shoulders. You'll find another. You always do. The wait is 3 hours. 3 hours of watching Zora drift in and out of restless sleep. 3 hours of fielding texts from potential employers as Tanisha immediately begins job hunting. 3 hours of calculating and recalculating their budget, trying to make impossible numbers work. If you want to see how this desperate situation resolves, stay with us as we uncover the series of events that leads Tanisha to that fateful flight where everything changes. Finally, they're called into an examination room. The doctor, young, harried, but kind, diagnoses strep throat after a quick swab test. He prescribes antibiotics and suggests over-the-counter pain relievers for the fever. Make sure she drinks plenty of fluids, he advises, already reaching for the door handle, clearly behind schedule. Doctor, Tanisha says quickly, how long before she can return to school? I work and my mother watches them, but with her arthritis. She doesn't finish the sentence, doesn't explain that her mother can barely lift Zora when the child is healthy, let alone care for her while sick. The doctor's expression softens slightly. She'll be contagious for at least 24 hours after starting the antibiotics. After that, if the fever's gone, she can return to school. But she'll need rest. Kids bounce back quickly, but strep can be serious if not treated properly. Tanisha nods, thanking him as he hurries to his next patient. The prescription, the precious paper that will help her daughter heal, feels heavy in her hand. Now comes the next challenge, paying for it. At the clinic's front desk, Tanisha braces herself for the bill. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and chipped nail polish, slides a form across the counter. That'll be $75 for the visit, she says routinely. Do you have insurance? No, Tanisha answers, the familiar shame washing over her. Can I set up a payment plan? The receptionist looks up, really seeing her for the first time. We require at least half today, she says, but her tone has softened. $37.50 and you can pay the rest next month. It's a small kindness, but significant. Tanisha counts out the money from her wallet tips from yesterday's shift that were meant for groceries. Another adjustment, another sacrifice. The diagnosis is strep throat. The prescription costs $43.79 that Tanisha doesn't have. She uses the credit card she keeps for absolute emergencies, knowing it's already close to its limit. Outside the pharmacy, she allows herself exactly 30 seconds of panic before squaring her shoulders. She's faced worse. She'll find another job. They'll be okay. In the car, her mother's ancient Toyota that burns oil and makes alarming noises when it goes over 50 mph. Zora falls asleep again, the first dose of medicine already working its way through her small system. Alina drives carefully, her arthritic hands gripping the wheel with determination. "You'll stay with us tonight," Alina says, not a question but a statement. "Amara's already there. I picked her up from school on our way to the clinic." Tanisha nods gratefully. Her mother's apartment is small, a one-bedroom senior living unit, but it's warm and safe. Tonight, warmth and safety matter more than space. "I need to get back to our place, though," Tanisha says. "Get some clothes for the girls, check the mail, and I should be there in case the landlord fixed the heat." Alina snorts skeptically. "That man hasn't fixed anything in 20 years. I don't know why you think he'll start now." They arrive at Alina's apartment as the winter sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Amara is waiting anxiously at the window, her small face lighting up when she sees them. She meets them at the door, her school backpack still on as if she's been ready to leave at a moment's notice. "Is Zora okay?" she asks immediately, her eyes wide with concern. "She will be," Tanisha assures her, balancing the now sleeping Zora on her hip. "The doctor gave her medicine. She just needs rest." Amara nods solemnly, accepting this information with the gravity of a child who has learned early that illness isn't just inconvenient, it's frightening when you live on the edge financially. Inside, the apartment is cluttered but cozy. Alina has lived here for 5 years, since she could no longer manage the stairs in her old building. The walls are covered with family photos, Tanisha as a child, school pictures of the girls, faded images of relatives long gone. A small artificial Christmas tree still stands in the corner, though February is nearly over. No one has had the heart to take it down. Its cheerful lights provide comfort on dark winter evenings. Tanisha settles Zora on the couch, covering her with a crocheted blanket that Alina made years ago. The little girl stirs but doesn't wake, her breathing still congested but more regular now. "Have you eaten, baby?" Tanisha asks Amara, who shakes her head. "Grandma said we'd wait for you." Alina is already in the kitchenette, pulling containers from the refrigerator. "I made soup yesterday," she says, "and there's cornbread." It's a simple meal, but nourishing. The three of them eat at the small table, speaking in hushed tones to avoid waking Zora. Tanisha tells her mother about losing the diner job, trying to sound more confident than she feels about finding another quickly. "What about the hotel?" Alina asks. "Can they give you more hours?" "I've already asked," Tanisha says. "They're overstaffed right now. Winter is slow for tourism." After dinner, while Alina supervises Amara's homework, Tanisha drives back to their apartment. The building is a 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that was once solidly working class but has declined in recent years. Broken toys litter the small yard. A security door that hasn't worked in months hangs slightly ajar. Inside, the hallway smells of cabbage and cigarettes. Their apartment is on the 3rd floor. Tanisha climbs the stairs slowly, fatigue weighing on her like a physical burden. Outside their door, a notice catches her eye, not an eviction, thankfully, but a warning. The building has been cited for code violations, including inadequate heating. Residents are advised to make alternative arrangements if possible until repairs are completed. "Alternative arrangements," Tanisha mutters, unlocking the door. "With what money?" Inside, the apartment is frigid. Her breath forms small clouds in the air. The heating has gone from temperamental to non-existent. She moves quickly, gathering essentials for herself and the girls' clothes, schoolbooks, Zora's favorite stuffed elephant, Amara's journal. She checks the mail, more bills, a flyer for a pizza place, and a notice from the electric company threatening disconnection. As she's about to leave, her phone rings. It's Marcus, the hotel manager. "Tanisha, I heard about Zora. Is she okay?" His voice is genuinely concerned. Marcus has been a good boss, flexible with her schedule when possible, understanding of her situation as a single parent. "She will be," Tanisha answers, locking the apartment door behind her. "Strep throat, she's on antibiotics now." "Look, I know this isn't great timing, but I wanted to tell you myself," Marcus continues, his tone shifting to something more formal. Corporate's cutting our budget again. I have to reduce everyone's hours. I can only offer you 2 shifts a week until further notice. Tanisha stops on the landing, leaning against the wall for support. 2 jobs reduced to partial employment at one, all in the same day. The precarious tower of her financial existence is collapsing. I understand, she says automatically, the words hollow in her ears. When does this start? Next week's schedule, Marcus says, sounding genuinely regretful. I fought for you, Tanisha. You're one of our best, but it came from above. After she hangs up, Tanisha sits on the stairs, the bag of clothes beside her. For the first time today, tears threaten. She allows herself exactly 3 minutes to feel the fear and despair. She counts the seconds in her head, breathing deeply as the emotions wash over her. When the 3 minutes are up, she wipes her eyes, picks up the bag, and continues down the stairs. Crying won't pay the bills or feed her children. But fate isn't finished testing Tanisha's resolve. That evening, as she administers Zora's next dose of antibiotics at her mother's apartment, her phone rings again. It's her academic advisor from the community college. Ms. Williams, I'm calling about your payment plan for this semester. The advisor begins without preamble. We show that you've missed the last 2 installments. If payment isn't received by Friday, I'm afraid you'll be administratively withdrawn from your courses. Tanisha steps into her mother's bathroom, closing the door softly behind her. I thought I had until the end of the month, she says, trying to keep the desperation from her voice. That was last month's extension, the advisor explains, not unkindly. The system automatically processes withdrawals after 2 missed payments. The amount needed to continue is $763.42. It might as well be $1 million. I see, Tanisha says. Thank you for letting me know. After the call, Tanisha sits on the bathroom floor, her back against the cool bathtub, and allows herself 5 minutes of silent tears. 5 minutes is all she can spare for self-pity. When the timer on her phone buzzes, she washes her face, applies concealer to the dark circles under her eyes, and emerges with a smile for her girls. Who wants to hear a story before bed? She asks, and both children raise their hands eagerly, even sick Zora, who has woken up hungry and slightly improved after her medication. Later, after the girls are asleep on the pull-out couch in her mother's living room, Tanisha opens her laptop and begins applying for jobs. Any job. All jobs. She works until her eyes burn, submitting application after application. By 1:00 a.m., she's applied to 27 positions. She allows herself 4 hours of sleep before starting again. Morning brings no relief. Her mother's apartment is warm, but Tanisha knows they can't stay indefinitely. The space is too small and her mother's health too fragile to handle the constant demands of 2 young children. They need to return to their own apartment, but without heat, it's uninhabitable. She calls the landlord again. This time, he answers. Mr. Diaz, this is Tanisha Williams in 3B. Our heat is completely out, and the building was cited for code violations. When will repairs be completed? Ah, Ms. Williams, the landlord's voice is jovial, as if they're discussing something pleasant. Yes, we're aware of the heating issue. Parts have been ordered. Could be a week, could be 2. You know how these things go. A week or 2? Tanisha's voice rises in disbelief. It's February in Chicago. The apartment is freezing. We can't live like that, especially with a sick child. That's why we suggested alternative arrangements, Mr. Diaz responds, his tone cooling. We can't control shipping times for parts. Will there be a rent reduction for the days without heat? Tanisha asks, already knowing the answer. We'll consider it on a case-by-case basis once repairs are complete, he says dismissively. Is there anything else? Tanisha ends the call, frustration burning in her chest. Tenant rights exist in theory, but enforcing them requires resources she doesn't have: time, money, legal knowledge. It's another example of how poverty compounds itself, how each challenge makes the next one harder to overcome. She helps her mother prepare breakfast for the girls. Zora seems better this morning, her fever reduced, though she's still tired and clingy. Amara is quiet, watching the adults with observant eyes that miss nothing. Mommy, do we have to go back to our cold house? She asks as Tanisha helps her button her coat for school. Not yet, baby, Tanisha assures her. We'll stay with Grandma until our heat is fixed. But Grandma's place is so small, Amara points out with a child's blunt honesty. Alina chuckles, patting her granddaughter's cheek. Good things come in small packages, Miss Amara, like you. After dropping Amara at school, Tanisha spends the day in a coffee shop, using their free Wi-Fi to continue her job search. She can't afford the coffee she purchases, but at the price of using the space for hours. She stretches it as long as possible, sipping slowly, making the most of this small investment. The job search proves fruitless. Position after position either pays too little to sustain them or requires availability Tanisha can't offer as a single mother. By day's end, she's walked miles between interviews, her feet blistered in her only pair of professional shoes that are half a size too small, a thrift store compromise. As February turns to March, their situation deteriorates further. Tanisha picks up odd jobs, house cleaning, dog walking, data entry she can do at night after the girls are asleep. The reduced hotel hours barely cover groceries. The diner job isn't replaced. Bill notices pile up, each one stamped with increasingly urgent warnings. She's withdrawn from her college courses, the dream of a business degree deferred once again. The apartment's heat is repaired after 11 days, but by then new problems have emerged. The refrigerator stops working, spoiling what little food they had. The sink develops a leak that damages the bathroom floor. Each issue requires another call to the unresponsive landlord, another patch rather than a proper repair. Throughout it all, Tanisha maintains a brave face for her daughters. They don't need to know the details of adult worries. But children are perceptive, especially children who have lived with economic insecurity. "Are we poor, Mommy?" Amara asks one evening as Tanisha tucks her in. The question catches Tanisha off guard. "Why do you ask that, baby?" Amara's eyes are serious in the dim light. "Kylie at school says we're poor because I wear the same clothes a lot and my lunch is always just peanut butter, and because we don't have a car like her family." Tanisha chooses her words carefully. "We don't have as much money as some families," she acknowledges. "But we have enough of what really matters. We have each other, we have grandma, we have our health, and we have love. That makes us rich in the most important ways." Amara considers this. "But money matters too, right? That's why you work so much." "Money helps make life easier," Tanisha admits. "And I'm working hard so we'll have more in the future. But I never want you to think that having less money makes you less valuable as a person. You are brilliant and beautiful and kind, and no amount of money changes that." The conversation stays with Tanisha for days afterward. She wants her daughters to understand the value of work, of education, of personal dignity regardless of economic status. But she also wants them to have opportunities she never had, ballet lessons if they're interested, science camps if they show aptitude, college without crushing debt. Balancing immediate needs against future possibilities becomes increasingly difficult as their financial situation worsens. Then comes the eviction notice. Tanisha stares at the official document taped to her door. 30 days to pay or vacate. The amount, $1,450 in back rent, might as well be $1 million. She carefully removes the notice before the girls can see it and folds it into her pocket. Inside the apartment, Zora is coloring at the kitchen table while Amara reads a library book. Their normalcy, this pocket of childhood preserved despite everything, feels suddenly fragile. Tanisha moves through the evening routine mechanically, dinner from their dwindling supplies, homework help for Amara, bath time for both girls, a bedtime story. That night after tucking the children in, Tanisha researches homeless shelters in Chicago. The thought of her daughters in such a place makes her physically ill, but she forces herself to read reviews to identify which ones might be safest for children. She researches school district policies for homeless students, determined that even if they lose everything else, the girls won't lose their education. The reality of their situation settles over her like a heavy cloak. Without significant income, immediately they will lose their home. Even if she found a job tomorrow, the back rent and current month's payment would be impossible to manage. The careful balance she's maintained for years has finally tipped beyond recovery. A notification pops up on her screen, an email response to one of her countless applications. A hotel in Indianapolis is offering her a management position. The salary is better than anything she's had before, with benefits that include health insurance. There's even a small relocation bonus. Hope flares briefly before reality douses it. Indianapolis is 180 miles away. Moving means leaving her mother, the girl's only other support. It means new schools, new childcare arrangements, new everything. But what choice does she have? The next morning, Tanisha calls the Indianapolis hotel. The manager, a woman named Sharon Parker, sounds efficient but friendly as she explains the position: front desk supervisor, overseeing a staff of 5, managing scheduling and training. The salary she names makes Tanisha's heart race, nearly double what she earned at both Chicago jobs combined. "When could you start?" Sharon asks after they've discussed the job responsibilities. "I could be there in 2 weeks, Tanisha says, making quick calculations in her head. "I'd need to arrange things for my children and give notice at my current position." She doesn't mention that her current position is now just 2 shifts a week at a hotel where she's barely scheduled. That would work, Sharon confirms. The relocation bonus is $1,000, half payable on your first day and half after 90 days. We can email the paperwork today if you're interested. I am, Tanisha says, hope and anxiety battling within her. Thank you for this opportunity. After the call, Tanisha sits motionless at her kitchen table, processing the implications. Indianapolis, a fresh start, a salary that could support them properly, benefits that would mean no more terrifying medical bills, but also separation from her mother, the only family support she has, a new city where they know no one, the logistical challenges of moving with almost no money. Tanisha calls her mother. Alina listens quietly as Tanisha explains the opportunity and the dilemma. You do what you need to do for those babies, her mother says after Tanisha explains the situation. Maybe once you're settled, I can follow. They both know it's unlikely. Her mother's health isn't good and her disability benefits are tied to her current housing arrangement, another impossible choice in a life full of them. What about the girls? Tanisha asks, voicing her greatest concern. I can't afford to take all 3 of us right away. And even if I could, I'd have no childcare in Indianapolis until I get established. They'll stay with me until you get settled, Alina offers without hesitation. You go first, find a place, start the job, and send for them when you can. We'll manage. Mama, are you sure with your arthritis? I raised you, didn't I? And you were a lot more trouble than these 2 angels, Alina says with a chuckle. Then more seriously, it won't be forever, just until you get on your feet. The girls understand more than you think. They'll know you're doing this for them. The next days are a blur of activity. Tanisha sells what little of value they own, her laptop, their television, all but the most essential clothing. She gives notice at the hotel, trains her replacement, and researches the cheapest way to get to Indianapolis. Where are you watching from right now? Tanisha might wonder if she could see you following her journey. Are you sitting comfortably at home, or perhaps viewing this during your commute? Wherever you are, know that your presence witnesses her struggle, a struggle familiar to millions of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, where one illness, one job loss can topple the fragile house of cards that is financial stability. The decision about transportation proves another difficult calculation. Bus tickets for 3 would cost more than a single plane ticket. Tanisha makes the difficult decision to fly ahead alone, secure housing, and send for the girls once she receives her first paycheck. Her mother agrees to keep them, though worry creases her forehead when she thinks Tanisha isn't looking. Explaining the situation to the girls is one of the hardest conversations Tanisha has ever had. She sits them down in her mother's living room, choosing her words carefully. Mommy has some exciting news, she begins, trying to frame the separation positively. I've been offered a really good job in a city called Indianapolis. It's not too far from here, but I'll need to go there first to get everything ready before you join me. Amara's brow furrows immediately. We're not going with you. Not right away, Tanisha explains gently. You'll stay with Grandma for a little while until I find us a nice place to live and get everything set up. Then you'll come join me and we'll be together in our new home. How long is a little while? Amara persists, ever the practical one. About 2 weeks, Tanisha says, though she's not entirely sure. The hotel's payment schedule, the cost of deposits for an apartment, the logistics of moving, all of these variables make the timeline uncertain. Zora's lower lip trembles. I don't want you to go without us. I know, baby. Tanisha pulls her younger daughter close. I don't want to be away from you either, but sometimes we have to do hard things to make life better afterward. This job will mean we can have a nicer place to live, and you can have new clothes for school and maybe even take dance lessons if you want. Dance lessons? Zora perks up slightly. She's been pirouetting around the apartment since she saw a ballet on TV months ago. Maybe, Tanisha says cautiously. The new job pays more money, which means we'll have more choices. Amara, still processing, asks the question Tanisha has been dreading. What about our apartment, and my school, and my friends? We'll be moving to Indianapolis once I'm settled, Tanisha confirms. You'll go to a new school and make new friends, and our apartment here, well, it's been having a lot of problems lately, hasn't it? The heat breaking, the refrigerator not working right. Our new place will be better. She doesn't mention the eviction notice, the impossibility of paying the back rent, the fact that they would lose the apartment regardless. Some burdens are not for children to bear. The night before her departure, Tanisha sits on the floor between her sleeping daughters. She memorizes their faces in the dim light, Amara's long eyelashes fanning against her cheeks, Zora's mouth slightly open, her breathing finally easy as she recovers from her illness. Tanisha has never spent a night away from them. The thought of 2 weeks apart is almost unbearable. I'm doing this for you, she whispers, touching each small head gently. Everything is for you. Her mother finds her there, still watching the girls sleep, and places a hand on her shoulder. They'll be fine, Alina assures her softly, and so will you. What if this doesn't work out? Tanisha asks, voicing the fear that has been growing inside her. What if I get there and the job falls through, or I can't find affordable housing, or then you come back and we figure out something else? Alina says simply. But it will work out. You've never backed down from a challenge in your life. This is just another mountain to climb. Morning comes too quickly. Tanisha's flight is at noon, the cheapest option she could find. Her mother arrives early to take her to the airport, bringing a small care package, homemade banana bread, a thermos of tea, and a card the girls made with wobbly handwriting and excessive glitter. The goodbyes are worse than Tanisha imagined. Zora clings to her legs, sobbing. Amara, trying to be brave, keeps asking when they'll come to the new home. Soon, baby. So soon, Tanisha promises, her own tears threatening. At the security checkpoint, Tanisha turns for one last wave. Her mother stands tall, one hand on each granddaughter's shoulder, 3 generations of Williams women facing yet another separation in the name of survival. The journey through the airport feels surreal. Tanisha has flown only once before, years ago for a cousin's wedding. Everything about the experience, the security procedures, the terminal with its expensive shops and restaurants, the boarding process, reinforces her sense of being an outsider in a world designed for people with more resources than she has. She finds her seat, 14C, a middle seat toward the back of the plane. The boarding pass had been the cheapest option, a basic economy ticket with no allowance for checked luggage. Everything she's bringing to start her new life fits in a single carry-on bag and her purse. As the other passengers file past, Tanisha watches them, business travelers in tailored suits tapping on expensive laptops, families heading for vacations, students with earbuds and casual confidence. They all seem to belong in this space in ways she doesn't. Before boarding, Tanisha had counted her remaining money, $7.35 in cash, plus a nearly maxed-out credit card she's keeping for absolute emergencies. The relocation bonus won't come until she starts work. The hotel has arranged 3 nights in a budget accommodation for her arrival, but after that, she's on her own to find housing. Every penny matters. And so we return to the present moment, to seat 14C on American Airlines Flight 2187 to Indianapolis, where Tanisha Williams counts her remaining coins and tries to ignore her hunger. The photograph she clutches shows Amara and Zora in rare carefree moments, swinging at the park last summer. It's her talisman, her reminder of why every sacrifice is necessary. Across the aisle, James Harrington continues to observe the young woman. At 58, he's spent decades in corporate boardrooms where emotions are seen as weaknesses. Yet something about the quiet dignity with which this woman handles her obvious distress resonates with him. James is not a man given to impulsive decisions. His success in real estate development has been built on careful analysis, strategic planning, and disciplined execution. The Harrington name appears on office buildings, retail centers, and residential complexes across the Midwest, a testament to his business acumen and vision. Yet today, watching this stranger count coins in her palm, he feels an unexpected connection. Perhaps it's because she reminds him of his mother, who raised 3 children alone after his father abandoned the family when James was just 10. He remembers watching her at the kitchen table, sorting bills into piles, those that had to be paid immediately and those that could wait. He remembers the pride with which she approached every challenge, refusing charity but accepting opportunity when it was offered respectfully. Or perhaps it's because, despite his wealth and status, James has never forgotten what it feels like to be hungry, to wear shoes with holes carefully hidden, to pretend not to notice when classmates discussed weekend activities his family could never afford. Success hasn't erased those memories. It has only given them context. The flight attendant passes through the cabin again, offering drinks and snacks for purchase. Tanisha turns toward the window, avoiding eye contact, her hand tightening around the coins she knows are insufficient. The gesture, small but revealing, makes James's decision for him. The flight attendant he summoned arrives. "Sir, I'd like to purchase a meal for the lady in 14C, James says quietly, handing over his credit card. And perhaps you could bring her a blanket. It's rather cold on this flight. Of course, Mr. Harrington, the attendant responds, recognizing the name of one of the airline's most frequent premium passengers. Minutes later, Tanisha is surprised when the attendant places a tray before her containing a sandwich, chips, and a cookie, along with a bottle of water and a warm blanket. I can't, Tanisha begins embarrassed. It's been taken care of, the attendant says with a smile. Enjoy your meal. Tanisha looks around in confusion until her eyes meet James's. He gives her a small nod before returning his attention to his laptop. Tanisha's pride wars briefly with her hunger before necessity wins. She eats slowly, savoring each bite, the first real meal she's had in days. The sandwich is nothing special airline food rarely is, but to Tanisha it tastes like a feast. The bread is soft, the turkey actually moist, the lettuce crisp. She can't remember the last time she ate without first calculating the cost, without wondering if the money should be saved for something more essential. This unexpected kindness from a stranger brings tears to her eyes that she quickly blinks away. Across the aisle, James pretends to focus on his quarterly reports, but his attention keeps drifting to the young woman. There's something compelling about her, a quiet strength evident in her posture, in the careful way she arranges her few possessions, in the gentle manner she handles the photograph of her children. His assistant had prepared a thorough briefing on the Indianapolis market for this trip, but James finds himself more interested in the human story unfolding beside him than in property values and development opportunities. As the flight progresses, James finds himself unusually distracted from his quarterly reports. Something about the woman's situation keeps drawing his attention. He's made his fortune identifying untapped potential, and his instincts are rarely wrong. When the seatbelt sign turns off, he makes a decision. "Excuse me," he says, standing beside Tanisha's seat. "I couldn't help noticing you seemed distressed earlier. I hope the meal helped." Tanisha looks up, immediately defensive. Her experiences have taught her that unexpected attention, especially from men, often comes with strings attached. "Thank you for your kindness. I can pay you back once I'm settled." James shakes his head. "That's unnecessary. I'm James Harrington," he offers his hand. "Tanisha Williams," she responds automatically, her handshake firm despite her circumstances. Her mother had always emphasized the importance of a proper handshake. "A limp handshake tells people you're not confident," Alina would say. "And you have every reason to be confident. Mind if I sit for a moment?" James gestures to the empty middle seat beside her. The flight is only half full, with many passengers spread out to take advantage of the extra space. Tanisha hesitates, then nods. She's wary but also curious about this well-dressed businessman who noticed her distress when most would have looked away. James settles into the seat, careful to respect her personal space. "What takes you to Indianapolis, Ms. Williams?" he asks. Under normal circumstances, Tanisha would offer polite deflection. She's learned to be guarded about her personal circumstances, to present a carefully edited version of her life to the world. But exhaustion and the strange intimacy of airplane conversations lower her guard. She finds herself explaining her situation, the lost jobs, the eviction, the new position, and the temporary separation from her daughters. "It's just for 2 weeks," she says, touching the photograph of her girls. "Just until I get my first paycheck and find a place we can afford. My mother's watching them. They understand, I think at least Amara does. Zora's still too young to really get it." James listens without interruption, his expression thoughtful. There's no pity in his gaze, for which Tanisha is grateful. Pity is too close to condescension, and she's had enough of both to last a lifetime. When she finishes, he's silent for a moment before speaking. "I admire your resilience," he says finally. "Most people would have broken under that kind of pressure." Tanisha gives a small, tired laugh. "Breaking isn't a luxury single mothers can afford." The comment strikes James with unexpected force. He thinks of his own mother, who raised him and his siblings alone after their father abandoned the family. He remembers the multiple jobs, the careful budgeting, the sacrifices she made that he only fully understood years later. "My mother used to say something similar," he admits. "She raised 3 of us on her own. This was back in the 60s, when the options for single mothers were even more limited than they are now." Tanisha studies him with new interest. This successful businessman with his Italian silk tie and platinum watch doesn't match her mental image of someone who grew up in circumstances like hers. "She must have been very strong," she offers. "She was," James confirms, "and very determined that we would have opportunities she never had." Education was non-negotiable in our house. This resonates with Tanisha, who has impressed the same values on her daughters despite their challenges. "That's how I feel about my girls, especially Amara. She's so bright. Her teachers say she could be anything." "And you, what are your ambitions beyond the hotel position?" James asks, sensing there's more to her story. "I was studying business administration," Tanisha admits. I had to withdraw this semester because of financial issues, but I'll go back, somehow. I'm 3 semesters away from my bachelor's degree. What kind of business experience do you have? He asks suddenly. Surprised by the change in conversation, Tanisha explains her associate's degree in business administration, her current online studies, and her practical experience managing the hotel's front desk operations. I'm actually good with numbers, she adds. I can make budgets stretch in ways that would impress any accountant. James smiles at this. I don't doubt it. He reaches into his jacket and produces a business card. Harrington Enterprises, we have offices in Indianapolis. Once you're settled, give my assistant a call. I think we might have opportunities that would suit your skills. Tanisha takes the card reflexively, though doubt is evident on her face. She's had too many promises evaporate to place much faith in casual offers from strangers, even well-meaning ones. That's very kind, but I've already accepted the hotel position. Keep it anyway, James insists. Options are valuable. The plane begins its descent into Indianapolis. Tanisha carefully tucks James's card into her wallet, not because she believes anything will come of it, but because rejecting it outright would be impolite after his kindness with the meal. What brings you to Indianapolis? She asks, realizing she's done all the talking while knowing nothing about him. Business, James replies. We're expanding our operations there. I'm meeting with local officials about a new development project, an innovation center focused on supporting entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities. This catches Tanisha's interest. Like a business incubator? James looks pleased at her understanding. Exactly like that. We provide space, mentorship, and seed funding for promising ventures that might not have access to traditional capital. That sounds. Tanisha searches for the right word. Impactful. That's the goal, James agrees. Though like any business, it needs to be sustainable. We take a small equity stake in successful ventures, which funds the next generation of entrepreneurs. It's not charity, it's investment in untapped potential. The phrase resonates with Tanisha. Untapped potential. Isn't that what she's been fighting for all these years? The chance to prove what she can do given the right opportunity. The plane touches down with a slight bump, taxiing toward the terminal. Passengers begin the usual routine of collecting belongings and checking phones for messages. Tanisha feels a curious mix of anticipation and anxiety. This city, these unfamiliar surroundings, represent both risk and possibility. When they land in Indianapolis, James offers Tanisha a ride to her hotel in his waiting car service. Initially reluctant, she eventually accepts when he points out the savings in taxi fare. During the ride, they continue their conversation, moving beyond Tanisha's immediate circumstances to her long-term goals and aspirations for her daughters. The car is luxurious in a subdued way: leather seats, tinted windows, a discreet driver who maintains a professional distance. Tanisha sits with her small carry-on bag on her lap, acutely aware of the contrast between her circumstances and these surroundings. Education changed my life, James tells her as they navigate the Indianapolis streets. It can do the same for your girls. That's the plan, Tanisha agrees. I'm determined they'll have opportunities I never did. They discuss the Indianapolis school system, which James knows surprisingly well. He mentions neighborhoods with strong educational programs, areas where property values are rising but still affordable, parts of the city experiencing economic revitalization. Tanisha absorbs this information eagerly, already planning for when her daughters join her. At the budget hotel where Tanisha has booked a room until her employee housing becomes available, James hands her his personal number. Call me tomorrow, he says. I want to show you something before you start your new job. Tanisha's natural caution resurfaces. Mr. Harrington, I appreciate your kindness, but it's a professional matter, he clarifies, understanding her concern. I believe in investing in potential, Ms. Williams. You have it in abundance. After a moment's hesitation, Tanisha nods. Tomorrow, then? The hotel is basic but clean, a significant step up from the deteriorating apartment she left behind in Chicago. Tanisha takes a hot shower, allowing herself to enjoy the abundant hot water that doesn't suddenly turn cold as it often did in their apartment. Small luxuries that most take for granted. Alone in her sparse hotel room, Tanisha calls her mother to report her safe arrival. The girls are already asleep, but her mother assures her they're doing well, despite missing her terribly. After the call, Tanisha examines James's business card more carefully. Harrington Enterprises, a major player in commercial real estate development. She Googles James and finds numerous articles about his business success and philanthropic work. Why would someone like him take an interest in someone like me? She wonders aloud. The cynical part of her, developed through years of hardship, looks for ulterior motives. But something about James seemed genuine. Either way, she has nothing to lose by hearing him out. She spends the evening researching the hotel where she'll be working, familiarizing herself with their procedures and policies. Preparation has always been her strategy for success. Understand the expectations, exceed them consistently, create security through competence. By midnight, her eyes are closing despite her efforts to continue studying. She sets an alarm, knowing tomorrow will shape the trajectory of their new life in Indianapolis. The next morning, Tanisha dresses in her one professional outfit: black pants, a white blouse, and a navy blazer she found at a thrift store. The clothes are slightly worn but clean and pressed. She styles her hair in a neat bun and applies minimal makeup, wanting to project competence and professionalism. At precisely 10:00 a.m., her phone rings. James is waiting in the hotel lobby. Downstairs, she finds him conversing easily with the receptionist, dressed more casually than yesterday in dark jeans and a sport coat. "Ms. Williams," he greets her warmly. "Ready for a short tour of Indianapolis?" Tanisha nods, curious about what he wants to show her. Outside, the same car from yesterday waits at the curb. As they drive, James points out landmarks and neighborhoods, giving her a sense of the city's layout. Tanisha notices that he's a good teacher, explaining context, connecting information to her specific situation, checking for understanding rather than simply lecturing. They travel in his car to a development on the city's northwest side. The building is modern, with glass and steel architecture that gleams in the morning sunlight. The sign reads, "Harrington Innovation Center." "This is one of our newest projects," James explains as they enter the lobby. "A business incubator focused on supporting entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds." The space is impressive, open and airy, with natural light flooding through large windows. People move purposefully through the common areas, some engaged in animated discussions, others focused intently on laptops or tablets. The energy is palpable, a sense of creativity and possibility that Tanisha finds immediately appealing. Tanisha follows him through the space, impressed by the modern facilities, shared workspaces, private offices, conference rooms equipped with the latest technology. People of diverse backgrounds work at computers or gather in small groups around whiteboards filled with diagrams and notes. A young woman in a hijab demonstrates a medical device to an attentive audience. An older man with gray dreadlocks consults with what appears to be a client over video conference. Two college-aged men test what looks like a prototype for a solar-powered charging station. The common thread seems to be innovation and entrepreneurship, but with a distinctly inclusive atmosphere. "We provide space, mentorship, and initial funding," James continues. "In return, we take a small equity stake in successful ventures. It's been operational for 6 months, and we're already seeing promising results." He introduces her to several entrepreneurs: a woman developing eco-friendly packaging materials, a veteran creating accessibility technology for disabled users, a former teacher building educational software for multilingual classrooms. Each person greets Tanisha warmly, sharing their journeys from idea to implementation with obvious enthusiasm. "It's impressive," Tanisha acknowledges as they complete the tour. "But why are you showing me this?" James leads her to a small conference room and closes the door. "Because I'm offering you a job, Ms. Williams, not as an entrepreneur, at least not yet, but as our community outreach coordinator." Tanisha blinks in surprise. "I don't understand." "Your background in business administration, your experience managing customer relations, and most importantly, your lived experience make you uniquely qualified," James explains. "We need someone who can connect with the communities we aim to serve, someone who understands the barriers to entry because they've faced them personally." He outlines the position: community outreach, relationship building with neighborhood organizations, identifying potential entrepreneurs who might not otherwise find their way to the center. The role would involve creating partnerships with local schools, community colleges, churches, and other grassroots organizations. He names a salary that makes Tanisha's breath catch, nearly twice what the hotel offered. The position includes comprehensive benefits, a flexible schedule that would accommodate her children's needs, and assistance with housing. Tanisha struggles to find words. "This is very generous, but it feels too good to be true. We just met yesterday. Why would you offer this to a complete stranger?" James considers her question seriously. "I believe in recognizing potential where others might miss it. My mother was in a situation similar to yours, once talented, hardworking, but limited by circumstances beyond her control. Someone took a chance on her, which eventually allowed her to send me to college. I'm simply paying that forward." He pauses before continuing. "Also, to be perfectly honest, this isn't pure altruism. Our incubator needs to connect with communities that traditionally mistrust institutions like ours. Your insights would be invaluable from a business perspective." The explanation rings true. It acknowledges both the personal and practical motivations behind the offer, neither dismissing her capabilities nor pretending the opportunity is charity. "What about my commitment to the hotel?" Tanisha asks. "They're expecting me to start on Monday." "That's your decision," James says. "I respect loyalty. If you choose to honor that commitment, the position here will remain open for 30 days. You decide to accept our offer instead, I'm happy to speak with the hotel manager myself to explain the situation." Tanisha sits quietly, processing this unexpected turn of events. The opportunity would change everything for her family, yet caution born from years of disappointment holds her back. Life has taught her that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. "I'd need to think about it," she says finally. "And I'd need to speak with the hotel. I've made a commitment to them." James nods approvingly. "I respect that. Take the day to consider. We can meet again tomorrow if you're interested." Before you see how this ends, make sure you're subscribed to our channel for more inspiring stories of life-changing encounters and unexpected opportunities. These real-life moments of connection remind us that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. As James drives her back to her hotel, Tanisha's mind races with possibilities. The position he's offering would be more than just a job. It would be a career with growth potential, something she's always wanted but never quite believed was possible. The salary would mean stability for her family, the benefits would provide security they've never known, and the flexible schedule would allow her to be present for her daughters in ways her previous jobs never permitted. But doubt lingers. Why her? Is there something she's missing? What if she accepts and then fails? The thought of disappointing not just herself but her daughters makes her stomach clench with anxiety. Back at her hotel, Tanisha thanks James for his time and the opportunity. "I'll call you tomorrow," she promises. Alone in her room, she paces, weighing her options. The hotel position is certain, she's already accepted, the paperwork is signed, and she understands exactly what will be expected of her. The Harrington offer is more promising but less familiar, a step into unknown territory. Tanisha spends the day in careful consideration. She calls the hotel and honestly explains the situation. To her surprise, the manager is understanding. "Take the better opportunity," he advises. "I'd do the same in your position." She researches Harrington Enterprises more thoroughly, finding nothing to suggest James's offer is anything but legitimate. His foundation has a strong record of community investment, particularly in creating opportunities for minorities and women. Articles describe him as demanding but fair, a businessman who values results but not at the expense of ethics. That evening, she video calls her daughters, their small faces filling the screen with smiles and excited chatter. Amara shows off a science project she's working on, a model of the solar system made from painted styrofoam balls. Zora demonstrates a new dance she's created, spinning in dizzy circles until she collapses in giggles. "When are you coming home, Mommy?" Zora asks, her face suddenly serious. "Soon, baby," Tanisha promises. "And guess what? I might have an even better job than the one I told you about, one where I could pick you up from school sometimes instead of working late every day." "Really?" Amara's eyes widen with interest. "What kind of job?" Tanisha explains in simple terms, helping people start businesses, connecting communities with opportunities, building bridges between different worlds. As she describes it, the position sounds even more appealing. This is meaningful work, not just employment. Watching her daughter's excitement, Tanisha makes her decision. If there's even a chance this opportunity is real, she owes it to them to take it. The next day, she accepts James's offer. What follows is a whirlwind of activity. James's executive assistant, a competent woman named Diane, helps Tanisha secure a furnished two-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood near good schools. The company provides an advance on her salary so she can bring her daughters to Indianapolis immediately rather than waiting for her first paycheck. The apartment is modest but modern, with working appliances, reliable heating, and no signs of the neglect that characterized their Chicago home. There's a small balcony overlooking a community garden, and the building has a playground in the courtyard. Tanisha walks through the rooms in disbelief. This place, this fresh start, feels like a dream after years of struggle. "Is this really happening?" she asks Diane as they complete the paperwork. The assistant smiles. Mr. Harrington is an excellent judge of character and potential. He wouldn't have offered you the position if he didn't believe you were the right person for it. Within days, arrangements are made for Tanisha's mother and daughters to join her. The company even covers their flight, a gesture that brings tears to Tanisha's eyes when James mentions it casually, as if it's standard procedure rather than extraordinary kindness. It's an investment, he explains when she tries to thank him. Having your family here and settled means you can focus on your work without distraction. It's just good business. But they both know it's more than that. It's recognition of her humanity, of the fact that her professional value cannot be separated from her role as a mother. It's respect for the whole person, not just the employee. 3 days after meeting James on the airplane, Tanisha is standing in the Indianapolis airport again, this time watching anxiously as passengers disembark from the Chicago flight. Then suddenly, there they are, Amara running toward her, Zora toddling behind with her grandmother. "Mommy." They cry in unison as Tanisha kneels to gather them in her arms. "My babies," she whispers, inhaling their familiar scent, feeling the solid reality of them against her. "I've missed you so much." The reunion is sweet beyond words. Zora clings to Tanisha as if afraid she might disappear again. Amara, more reserved but equally emotional, keeps touching her mother's arm as if to reassure herself that this is real. Over the girls' heads, she meets her mother's eyes. The older woman's expression holds a mixture of pride, hope, and lingering concern. "This is real," her mother asks quietly when the girls are distracted by a nearby display. "It seems to be," Tanisha confirms. "I start work on Monday." Alina studies her daughter's face, seeing the transformation that has already begun, a lightness that wasn't there before, a confidence that had been eroded by years of struggle but is now returning. "You look different already," she observes. Tanisha smiles. "I feel different, like I can breathe for the first time in years." As they drive to the new apartment, Tanisha points out landmarks to the excited girls. The apartment building has a small playground in the central courtyard that elicits squeals of delight. Inside, the space is modest but clean and well-maintained, so different from what they left behind that it feels almost unreal. "Is this really all ours, Mommy?" Amara asks, wide-eyed as she explores the bedrooms. "Yes, baby." "This is our new home," Tanisha confirms, watching as her daughters discover the space that represents their new beginning. There are 2 bedrooms, one for Tanisha and one for the girls to share. The furniture is simple but new, provided as part of the company's relocation package. The kitchen gleams with appliances that actually work. The bathroom has a tub deep enough for proper baths, not just quick showers. Small details that represent luxury after years of making do. Alina walks through the apartment slowly, nodding with approval. "This is good, Tanisha. This is very good." That night, after the girls are asleep in their new beds, real beds with matching comforters and pillows that aren't flattened by years of use, Tanisha and her mother sit at the kitchen table, speaking in low voices. "Tell me about this man," Alina says, her expression cautious. "This Mr. Harrington who suddenly offers you a job after meeting you on a plane." Tanisha understands her mother's concern. Life has taught them both to be wary of seemingly easy solutions, to look for hidden costs in unexpected generosity. "He's legitimate," Tanisha assures her. "The company is real, the position is real. I've done my research. And he's not like that, Mama. He sees this as a business decision, not charity. He believes I have something valuable to offer." Alina studies her daughter's face, searching for any sign of naivete or willful blindness. Finding none, she nods slowly. "I hope he's right. I hope this is the chance you've been working toward all these years." "Me too," Tanisha admits. "But even if it doesn't work out exactly as planned, we're in a better position now than we were a week ago. The girls are with me, we have a decent place to live, and I have a job that pays a living wage. That's not nothing." Her mother reaches across the table to squeeze her hand. "That's everything, baby. That's the foundation. You can build from here." The weekend passes in a flurry of activity, setting up the apartment, exploring the neighborhood, helping the girls adjust to their new surroundings. Tanisha takes them to the local library to get cards, to the nearby park to play, to the grocery store where, for the first time in memory, she doesn't have to count pennies or leave necessities unpurchased. On Sunday evening, as she prepares for her first day of work, Tanisha feels a mixture of excitement and terror. The opportunity before her is everything she's worked for, but the responsibility is enormous. What if she fails? What if she can't meet James's expectations? What if this whole incredible turn of events collapses like a house of cards? "You've got this," her mother says, reading her anxiety correctly. "Remember who you are. Remember what you've already overcome." Monday arrives, bringing with it Tanisha's first day at Harrington Innovation Center. She drops the girls at a highly rated daycare center that's part of her benefits package, marveling at the bright, well-equipped classrooms and the warm welcome they receive. Zora clings briefly but is soon distracted by an art project. Amara, ever the social butterfly, is already introducing herself to potential new friends. At the center, Diane introduces Tanisha to the team and shows her to her office, an actual office with a door and her name on it. The reality of the opportunity begins to sink in. This isn't just a job, it's a career path with growth potential. Mr. Harrington asked me to show you around, introduce you to key personnel, and get you settled, Diane explains. He's in meetings all morning but would like to check in with you this afternoon if that works for you. Of course, Tanisha agrees, still somewhat overwhelmed by the professional environment and the respect with which she's being treated. The morning is a whirlwind of introductions, orientation sessions, and system access setups. Tanisha meets the center's staff, a diverse group of professionals who each take time to explain their roles and how they might intersect with her new position. She's given a thorough overview of the center's mission, its current initiatives, and its goals for the coming year. By lunchtime, Tanisha's head is spinning with information, but she feels a growing excitement. The work is challenging but meaningful, exactly what she's always wanted. She calls the daycare during her break to check on the girls, relieved to hear they're adjusting well to their new environment. In the afternoon, James stops by her office. "How's the first day going?" he asks, leaning against the doorframe. "It's overwhelming," Tanisha admits honestly, "but in the best possible way. There's so much to learn, but everyone has been incredibly helpful." James nods, satisfied. "The learning curve is steep, but you strike me as someone who thrives on challenges. Don't hesitate to ask questions. We'd rather you seek clarification than make assumptions." "I will," Tanisha promises, "and thank you again for this opportunity. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," James says with quiet confidence. "That's why you're here." The weeks that follow are challenging but rewarding. Tanisha throws herself into learning every aspect of the incubator's operations. Her perspective as someone who has personally experienced economic hardship proves invaluable as she helps shape outreach programs and identify barriers that might prevent talented individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds from pursuing entrepreneurship. She develops a workshop series for aspiring entrepreneurs who lack formal business education. She creates partnerships with community organizations serving populations underrepresented in the business world. She reviews applications from potential participants with an eye for both viability and originality, often advocating for ideas others might dismiss due to unconventional presentations. The work energizes her in ways she's never experienced before. For the first time, her intelligence and insight are recognized and valued. Her suggestions are taken seriously, her feedback incorporated into program adjustments. The imposter syndrome that initially plagued her, the feeling that she didn't belong in this professional environment, gradually fades as she proves herself not just capable but exceptional. At home, the transformation is equally profound. The girls flourish in their new environment. Amara's academic abilities are recognized and nurtured by teachers with resources to challenge her. Zora, no longer constantly ill from inadequate heating and poor living conditions, blossoms into an even more energetic and creative child. The consistent schedule, reliable income, and absence of constant financial stress allow Tanisha to be more present as a mother, less distracted by survival concerns. Elena, too, seems renewed by the change. The apartment building has an active seniors community, and she quickly makes friends. Her health improves with regular medical care, another benefit of Tanisha's new position. She takes classes at the community center, volunteers at the girls' school, and generally embraces this unexpected new chapter with characteristic resilience. James becomes a mentor, taking time each week to check on her progress and offer guidance. He introduces her to his network of business contacts, insisting that she's not a charity case but a valuable addition to the company. "You earned this position," he reminds her when imposter syndrome threatens to overwhelm her during a particularly challenging project. "Now earn your next promotion." The statement becomes her mantra. She isn't here because of luck or charity. She's here because she has value to offer, skills to contribute, perspectives that enhance the center's mission. The realization is transformative, shifting her self-perception from someone struggling to survive to someone building a meaningful career. 3 months after that fateful flight, Tanisha stands before a community group in one of Indianapolis's underserved neighborhoods, presenting the incubator's programs. She speaks with confidence born of preparation and personal experience. I know what it's like to have potential but lack opportunity, she tells the audience. Harrington Innovation Center exists to bridge that gap. We believe talent is universal, but opportunity is not yet. Her presentation resonates with the audience, people who, like her, have ambitions but face systemic barriers to achieving them. She explains the center's programs without jargon or condescension, connecting authentically with potential participants. The questions afterward are engaged and specific, indicating genuine interest rather than polite attention. After the presentation, a young woman approaches her. She's perhaps 25, dressed neatly but inexpensively with the slightly harried look of someone juggling multiple responsibilities. Ms. Williams, I have this business idea but I don't have a degree or any connections, she admits hesitantly. I've been making natural hair products in my kitchen for years. My friends and family love them, but I don't know how to turn it into a real business. Tanisha smiles, remembering herself just months earlier. What's your name? Aisha Johnson. Let's talk about it, Tanisha says, guiding Aisha to a quiet corner. Everyone starts somewhere. As they discuss Aisha's concept, Tanisha feels a profound sense of rightness. This is why she's here, to help others recognize and develop their potential, just as James did for her. The circle is completing itself already. The investment in her already yielding returns through her ability to identify and nurture talent in others. That evening, as Tanisha tucks her daughters into their beds, real beds, not a shared mattress on the floor, she reflects on how dramatically their lives have changed. Amara is thriving in her new school, already skipped ahead in math and reading. Zora's health has improved with regular medical care, her endless energy now channeled into dance classes she adores. There's food in the refrigerator, heat in the winter, and for the first time in years, a savings account that's actually growing. Tell us the airplane story again, Zora requests sleepily, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. It's become their bedtime ritual, this telling and retelling of how their lives changed. Tanisha sits on the edge of the bed and begins. Once upon a time, Mommy was on an airplane with only $7.35 in her pocket. The girls listen with wide eyes, even though they know the story by heart. To them, it's better than any fairy tale because it's real, their story. And the kind man became your boss, Amara finishes. That's right, Tanisha confirms. Mr. Harrington gave Mommy an opportunity, but it was up to Mommy to make the most of it. This is the lesson she's most determined they learn, that while help may come from unexpected places, ultimately their success will depend on their own efforts and choices. Is Mr. Harrington like a fairy godmother? Zora asks drowsily, mixing her metaphors in the way only children can. Tanisha laughs softly. Not exactly. He's a businessman who recognizes potential, and he believes that helping people develop their talents isn't just kind, it's smart. Like how you helped Ms. Aisha today? Amara asks, revealing that she's been paying attention to her mother's work more than Tanisha realized. Yes, exactly like that, Tanisha confirms, impressed by her daughter's perception. Now it's my job to recognize potential in others, the way Mr. Harrington recognized it in me. As the girls drift off to sleep, Tanisha remains seated between their beds, watching their peaceful faces in the soft glow of the nightlight. The contrast between their lives now and just 3 months ago sometimes takes her breath away. The constant knot of anxiety that had lived in her chest for years has loosened, allowing her to breathe fully, to plan beyond the next meal or bill payment, to dream bigger dreams for herself and her daughters. 6 months into her new position, Tanisha has already made significant contributions to the center's outreach efforts. Under her leadership, applications from women and minority entrepreneurs have increased by 45%. 3 businesses she personally recruited, including Aisha's natural hair care line, have secured initial funding and are showing promising early results. James notices. During their weekly check-in meetings, he increasingly seeks her input on broader strategic questions, not just matters related to her specific role. He introduces her to potential investors, includes her in high-level planning sessions, and generally treats her as a valued team member rather than a junior employee. You've exceeded my expectations, he tells her during one such meeting. And I had high expectations to begin with. Tanisha accepts the compliment with growing confidence. Thank you, the work challenges me, but in all the right ways. I feel like I'm making a real difference. You are, James confirms, which is why I'd like you to consider taking on additional responsibilities. We're launching a mentorship program for high school students interested in entrepreneurship. I think you'd be the perfect person to develop and lead it. The opportunity represents another step up, more responsibility, more visibility, more impact. Tanisha accepts immediately, already formulating ideas for how to engage young people who, like her at their age, might not see business ownership as a realistic aspiration. The mentorship program becomes her passion project. She designs it to be practical and accessible, focusing on real-world skills and mindsets rather than abstract concepts. The students respond enthusiastically to her approach, particularly when she shares her own journey from struggle to success. "Most of you have more resources and support than I did at your age," she tells them honestly, "which means you have even more potential to create something meaningful. The question is, what will you do with that advantage?" The question resonates with the students, challenging them to see their circumstances through a lens of possibility rather than limitation. It's a perspective Tanisha has worked hard to develop in herself and is now passing on to the next generation. One year after their meeting on the plane, Tanisha sits across from James in his office for her performance review. The numbers speak for themselves. Under her leadership, community participation in the incubators programs has increased by 64%. 3 businesses she personally recruited have secured significant funding. The high school mentorship program has become a model that other Harrington centers are now adopting. "Impressive work," James acknowledges, reviewing her report. "I had high expectations and you've exceeded them." "Thank you for the opportunity," Tanisha responds. "It changed everything for us," James smiles. "I didn't change your life, Tanisha. I simply removed some obstacles. You're the one who did the work, who continues to do the work every day." The distinction matters. James hasn't been a savior or a charity giver, but rather someone who recognized value and created conditions where that value could flourish. The agency, the effort, the determination, those have always been Tanisha's. He slides a folder across the desk. "Which is why I'm offering you a new position, Director of Community Innovation, with a corresponding increase in responsibilities and compensation." Tanisha opens the folder, her eyes widening at the salary figure. It's more money than she ever imagined, earning enough to finish her bachelor's degree without loans, enough to start college funds for the girls, enough for her mother to finally retire from her physically demanding job and move to Indianapolis as they've been planning. "Additionally," James continues, "I'd like you to join the selection committee for our new scholarship program. We're providing full 4-year scholarships to promising students from low-income backgrounds. Your insight would be valuable in identifying candidates with both academic potential and the resilience to succeed." Emotion threatens to overwhelm Tanisha as the full-circle nature of this opportunity registers. From counting coins on an airplane to helping select scholarship recipients, life has a poetry to it sometimes. "I'd be honored," she manages. As she leaves James's office, folder clutched in hand, Tanisha stops in the atrium of the Innovation Center. The space is busy with entrepreneurs working on their ventures, mentors providing guidance, staff supporting various aspects of the operation. It's a vibrant ecosystem of opportunity and growth, exactly what she's helping to create for her daughters and for others like them. She calls her mother with the news of her promotion. Eleanor's pride is palpable even through the phone. "I always knew you had it in you," she says, her voice thick with emotion. "Your father would be so proud." Tanisha's father had died when she was 14, a construction accident that left Eleanor to raise Tanisha alone. He had been a man of strong principles and unwavering work ethic, values he had instilled in his daughter during their too brief time together. "I wish he could see the girls," Tanisha says softly. "See how they're thriving here." "He sees," Eleanor assures her with the quiet faith that has sustained her through many hardships. "Trust me, baby, he sees." That evening, Tanisha celebrates her promotion with a special dinner for her family. The girls are excited by her news, though they don't fully understand its significance. To them, what matters is that mommy is happy, that there will be more dance lessons for Zora and science camp for Amara, that life continues to expand rather than contract. As they eat ice cream sundaes for dessert, a rare treat, Amara asks a question that catches Tanisha off guard. "Mommy, are we rich now?" Tanisha considers how to answer. They are certainly more financially secure than they've ever been, with a comfortable home, reliable income, and growing savings. But rich is a relative term, and she wants her daughters to understand the complexity of privilege and advantage. "We have enough," she says finally. "More than enough for our needs and even for some of our wants. That makes us fortunate. But true wealth isn't just about money, it's about having choices, opportunities, and security. It's about being able to help others, not just yourself." Amara nods thoughtfully, processing this nuanced answer. "So we're not just taking any more, we're giving too." The insight, so mature for a 7-year-old, makes Tanisha's heart swell with pride. That's exactly right, baby. We receive and we give. That's how communities thrive. 18 months after joining Harrington Enterprises, Tanisha completes her bachelor's degree in business administration, taking evening and online classes while continuing her work at the center. The company's tuition assistance program covers most of the cost, and she graduates with honors, an achievement that seemed impossible during those dark days in Chicago. The graduation ceremony is a family celebration. Eleanor, Amara, and Zora watch proudly as Tanisha crosses the stage to receive her diploma. James attends as well, sitting discreetly in the back but making a point to congratulate her afterward. "This is just the beginning," he tells her. "Keep going. There's no limit to what you can achieve." Tanisha believes him now. The future that once seemed narrowly constrained by circumstance now stretches before her with expanding possibilities. She's considering an MBA program, exploring ways to grow the center's impact, thinking about how her experiences might help shape policy to create more equitable access to opportunity. 2 years after that pivotal flight, Tanisha stands at a podium addressing the inaugural class of Harrington Scholars, 20 students whose lives will be transformed by education, just as hers was transformed by opportunity. Her daughters sit in the front row beside her mother, all three beaming with pride. "Each of you has demonstrated exceptional talent and determination in the face of obstacles," she tells the scholars. "Those qualities will serve you well as you pursue your education. Remember that you're not just creating opportunities for yourselves, but for everyone who comes after you." Among the scholars is a young woman from Chicago's South Side, not far from where Tanisha herself grew up. The parallels aren't lost on her. The cycle of opportunity expanding to include those previously excluded is exactly what the Harrington programs are designed to create. In the audience, James Harrington listens with satisfaction. His investment in Tanisha has yielded returns far beyond financial metrics. The programs she's developed have become models for inclusive economic development, attracting attention from other cities eager to replicate their success. After the ceremony, as they watch the scholars and their families celebrating, James turns to Tanisha. "I've been thinking about expansion," he says. "Chicago would be our next logical location. We'd need someone familiar with the city to head up the operation." Tanisha looks at him sharply. "Are you offering me the position?" "I'm suggesting you consider it," James clarifies. "It would mean relocating again, but you'd be returning with very different circumstances than when you left." The possibility takes root in Tanisha's mind. Chicago, where she struggled for so long, where she counted her last coins on a flight out of necessity, could become the place where she returns in triumph, creating opportunities for others like her. The symmetry of it appeals to her sense of narrative justice. To return not as a victim of circumstance, but as an agent of change, what better way to complete the circle? "I'd want to visit first," she says cautiously. "See the potential location, meet with community partners, get a feel for where we could make the most impact." James nods approvingly. "Of course. Take Diane with you. She's excellent at the logistical aspects of site selection. I'd suggest focusing on the south and west sides. That's where the need is greatest, but also where the untapped potential is most abundant." The trip is arranged for the following month. Tanisha returns to Chicago with new eyes, seeing not just the challenges she remembers, but also the possibilities she now has the resources to explore. The neighborhoods she once navigated in desperation now represent opportunities for meaningful intervention. She meets with community leaders, local business owners, educators, and potential partners. Her personal connection to these communities gives her insights an outsider would miss, while her professional experience with the Harrington model allows her to envision concrete pathways for change. By the end of the visit, she's convinced. Chicago needs what Harrington Innovation Center can offer, and she's uniquely positioned to make it successful. She presents her findings to James with confidence, outlining potential locations, key partnerships, and specific populations they should target initially. "The startup ecosystem there is growing," she explains, "but it's still primarily accessible to those with traditional credentials and connections. We can change that narrative just as we have here in Indianapolis." James listens attentively, asking occasional questions that reveal his grasp of both the business considerations and the social impact potential. When she finishes her presentation, he smiles. "I think we've found our Chicago director," he says simply. "The position is yours if you want it." 3 months later, Tanisha stands in O'Hare Airport with her daughters and mother, waiting for their luggage. They've returned to Chicago, not in desperation, but with purpose. Harrington Innovation Center, Chicago will open in 6 weeks with Tanisha as its executive director. It looks different somehow, Amara observes, looking around the bustling terminal. Tanisha smiles, understanding what her daughter means. The city hasn't changed in their absence, but their perspective has. What once represented limitation now represents possibility. Their new home is in a neighborhood with excellent schools. Both girls are enrolled in programs for gifted students. Tanisha's mother has her own apartment in the same building, close enough for family dinners but with privacy for everyone. As they drive from the airport, they pass Sunrise Diner. Tanisha feels no bitterness at the sight, only a sense of how far she's come. "That's where Mommy used to work," she tells the girls. Before our big adventure began. Zara, now 6, presses her face against the window. "It looks small." "It is small," Tanisha agrees, "but it was an important part of our journey." The new Harrington Innovation Center is located in a renovated industrial building on the city's south side. The structure, once abandoned, has been transformed into a modern facility while preserving its historical character. Large windows flood the space with natural light. Former loading docks have become outdoor gathering areas. What was once a symbol of economic decline is now a beacon of revitalization. Tanisha oversees every aspect of the center's development, from the physical layout to the program offerings to the hiring of staff. She builds a team that reflects the communities they aim to serve, prioritizing both professional qualifications and lived experience. The result is a group as diverse in perspective as they are unified in purpose. On the opening day of Harrington Innovation Center, Chicago, Tanisha stands beside James, cutting the ceremonial ribbon. The crowd includes local officials, business leaders, and most importantly, community members from neighborhoods like the one where Tanisha once struggled to keep her daughters fed and housed. "This center belongs to you," she tells them. "It exists to transform potential into opportunity, just as someone once did for me." The speech she delivers is brief but powerful, connecting her personal journey to the center's mission without making herself the focus. She emphasizes that talent and ambition exist in abundance in every community. What's often missing are the resources, networks, and capital to develop them fully. "We're not here to save anyone," she clarifies. "We're here to remove artificial barriers to success, to level a playing field that has been uneven for far too long." The brilliance, the creativity, the determination, those already exist in this community. Our job is simply to help them find expression and recognition. Later, at the reception, a young woman approaches Tanisha hesitantly. She's wearing clothes that Tanisha recognizes as thrift store finds, carefully maintained to appear professional. "Ms. Williams, I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to thank you for coming to speak at my community college last month. Your story. It gave me hope when I really needed it." Tanisha smiles warmly. "What's your name?" "Destiny Jackson. I'm a single mom to 2 boys." She hesitates before continuing. "I have a business plan. It's probably nothing, but I'd love to hear about it," Tanisha interrupts gently. "That's why we're here." As she guides Destiny to a quiet corner to talk, Tanisha catches James watching them from across the room. He raises his glass slightly in acknowledgement. They both recognize the pattern repeating itself, opportunity recognized, potential nurtured, lives transformed. The center quickly becomes a hub of activity. Entrepreneurs at various stages of development find resources, mentorship, and community there. The scholarship program Tanisha helped design expands to include Chicago students. The high school mentorship initiative she created in Indianapolis is replicated and enhanced for the Chicago context. Most importantly, the center becomes known as a place where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their background or current circumstances. This reputation, built on Tanisha's insistence that lived experience be valued alongside formal credentials, draws participants who might otherwise remain disconnected from traditional business ecosystems. 4 years after joining Harrington Enterprises, Tanisha is invited to speak at a national conference on inclusive economic development. Her presentation, a case study of the Chicago Center's impact, draws attention from policymakers, investors, and community leaders from across the country. "The model works," she explains to the audience. "Not because it's revolutionary, but because it's relational. We succeed because we see potential where others see only problems. We invest in people, not just ideas. We recognize that talent is universal, but opportunity has been anything but." Her words resonate because they come from authentic experience. Tanisha speaks not just as a successful executive, but as someone who has lived the transformation she now helps create for others. This dual perspective gives her credibility in multiple worlds: the corporate boardroom and the community center, the investor meeting and the neighborhood gathering. 5 years after their chance meeting on that flight, Tanisha sits in first class on a plane bound for a national economic development conference where she'll be a keynote speaker. The frightened woman counting coins seems like someone from another lifetime. Across the aisle, a young man in a worn suit counts change in his palm, worry etched on his face. Tanisha recognizes the look, the calculation of too little to cover too many needs, the weight of responsibility, the desperate hope for a way forward. She signals the flight attendant. "I'd like to purchase a meal for the gentleman across the aisle," she says quietly, handing over her credit card. "And perhaps you could bring him a blanket. The cabin's quite cool." After the attendant delivers the items, the young man looks around in confusion until his eyes meet Tanisha's. She gives him a small nod of understanding before returning to her preparation notes. No further explanation is necessary, just one human acknowledging another's dignity in a moment of need. Later, as they begin their descent, the young man approaches her seat. "Thank you," he says simply. "It's been a rough day." "I understand," Tanisha replies. "I've had my share of those." He introduces himself as Marcus Torres, a recent graduate interviewing for positions that would allow him to support his younger siblings since their parents' recent accident. The familiar story of family responsibility and limited options resonates deeply with Tanisha. "What's your field?" she asks. "Software development," he answers. "But most companies want years of experience I don't have yet. It's the usual catch-22. Tanisha reaches into her bag and produces a business card. "We have a tech incubator at our Chicago center. If you're interested, I'd be happy to introduce you to our team there." As she hands him the card, Tanisha experiences a profound sense of completion. The circle that began with James offering her a card on a flight 5 years ago now continues with her extending similar possibility to someone else. Not charity, not saviorism, but recognition of potential that deserves the chance to develop. Would you have noticed Tanisha's struggle? Would you have taken a chance on a stranger's potential? Let us know in the comments below. In life's journey, we sometimes find ourselves in positions to help others, and sometimes we're the ones needing help. The true measure of our character may be how we respond in either situation. For Tanisha Williams, accepting help meant overcoming pride to create a better life for her children. For James Harrington, offering help meant recognizing that sometimes the most valuable investments are in human potential. Their story reminds us that small acts of kindness can ripple outward in ways we never anticipate. A meal purchased for a hungry stranger, a business card offered without expectation, a conversation that changes the trajectory of multiple lives. Perhaps the most powerful lesson is that genuine opportunity, not charity, is what truly transforms lives. James didn't simply give Tanisha money. He recognized her abilities and gave her the chance to prove herself. Tanisha didn't merely accept help. She leveraged it through hard work and determination, eventually extending similar opportunities to others. As we witness Tanisha reaching out to help someone else at the story's end, we see the completion of a circle. From recipient to provider, from struggling single mother to successful executive, her journey represents the best of what's possible when ability meets opportunity. And it all began with $7.35 counted carefully in the palm of a hand, and the simple human connection that changed everything.